Can talk trivia later. Take a seat, Mr. Coldan. You're not sure why you can see Rypite grabbing for his seat. But you can tell all that he's doing his best to try and lighten the mood. Or do you want me to put your cold stare pierces through him like a hot knife through butter? Or any cliches? You're not in the market for a lightened mood. A few inches he lifted and hit his seat off the floor, or reverse, and he lets out a fake cough or sitting down. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at Snowbound Blood, a visual novel about a legislator, much like myself, although one was a much more interesting job, I would say, is not much tends to happen on random stations off in the frontier worlds. Most exciting thing that happened in the last week was a gold blood. It was when a gold blood got loose from her ship. Evan had to wrangle her back in there. Hey, let me get started up. And we'll get this show on the road. Alright. Okay, good. No mic issues. News so far, at least. Yes, I had some minor ones and earlier, but they seem to be resolved. I don't know how much of this I'll be able to get through, in this stream, as there's over like 10 chapters. But we'll see how far we get. Right. Let's see, there's 11 chapters, 10. There's 12 if you count the prologue. Go ahead, take it. You prefer the dueling rapier, or your second best to the ruffian. You look down his two mates. It's easily enough. You took down his two mates easily enough, and now he's the last one standing, unarmed and afraid. Let me just crank up the music a little bit. This is part of the ritual for you. He's not dying alone. It's not a trick. You know that. I'm sure all of your ilk has heard of me. There we go. You even know how to hold it. Sometimes I get asked why I do this. He stands, eyes narrowed, and you touch the tips of your blades. Proper stance and all. Oh, you wish more smugglers had a touch of class as Soul did. And you almost feel bad for what's about to happen. Then you remember the document detailing the deaths caused by this counterfeit medicine lab, and start to finish, like it was photocopied straight into your head. There are three reasons, and here's the first. It's only fair, face to face, blade to blade, an honest chance. You deserve that. Everyone deserves that. If you die, you die. Die with nobility, with courage. If you don't, you walk out of here. You're the first man 12 sweeps to win a duel with me, and that's something to fight for. Remember LA? So the bout with feint to the right, an appel, a simple thrust. Well, I'm going to go for feint. I have no Saw the battle with a feint to the right, but he doesn't take the bait, holding him steady, but too passive. A shame. I assume... I assume that this will be... He'd be set win, regardless of our choice. That was just to get us introduced to the mechanic of actually making choices. A bit more aggression, he'd be a real challenge. Restrain yourself. Want to continue the duel. Well, you follow up with an appel. I'm not entirely sure what an appel even is, because I have no experience with dueling with swords. You follow up, aiming to shock him with the noise of your stomp on approach. He flinches at it, but not enough to be a real opening. Good composure, kid. You win the bout with a simple thrust. This one knows what he's doing, but you can see it in his stance. He might have been just like you, learning that in the pit, in some bright office, dreaming of holding a real regulator's blade with a like Proserpina gleaming with aiming in her hand. If so, he strayed. You didn't. Your superior technique prevails, and you catch his blade in a fur. All the leverage yours. You press your advantage and slide effortlessly closer with the tip until you've pierced his chest. It is right beside his blood pusher, sliding your sharp point and deeper as it returns to rosy brown blood. The other sword falls out of his hand with an indelicate clatter as he chokes out in pain. You catch him as he leans over, dying, and begins speaking in his ear, calm as always. The second reason I'm doing this is the one I need to hear. It's the important one. The one I need you to hear. It's the important one. If there's anything out there for your soul after this, if you meet any kind of maker or can see any shred of any of the dead, I need you to carry a message for me. Tell them this is for Alina Robiat. I will send them as many as they need to avenge her. He's nodding, even as blood starts to trickle from the corner of his mouth. Good lad. And if you see her, tell her I'm sorry. I can't join her just yet. Wait for him to slump over dead and slide him off your blade. Taking a picture with her visor to document another successful compliance initiative. And if your survivor, to your superiors. You pull a kerchief out of your coat pocket and wipe your blade clean. And you speak to no one as you sheath it and walk out of the room. The third reason is I enjoy it, and I always have. On to the first proper volume of Orders and Ordeals. Your name is Cecily Iopara. You're the chief regulator for the Rypite Corporation, more recently known for its variety of slick rebrands. So corporately, a corporately hired legislator, more so than one involved directly with the legis corpus. You've been pulled off your current caseload for you priority Aleph, which is a once in a binary eclipse level of problem. Which is good, and petty crime gets road after a while. Indeed. You walk through the busy, open office his hubs. Cubicles were deemed too impersonal by some new age sanitizer or another, or replaced sweeps ago. You're sure they'll be back in a few. That's how it always goes in these halls. As you let the symphony wash over you, you played by dozens of clicking keyboards. Towards the idle sameness of phone conversations on little headsets, the shuffle of papers, and the whine of a copier. Home sweet home. Your business isn't end with any of these low-level bureaucrats. As thank goodness. No, you take long strides past all of them, coat swishing in dramatic contrast to their button-up nose and slacks. You're on your way to your superior's office. This case starts, as all the best have, with consultation and with the newly put into air. Sestro Inthal and Hemifi Hickrix. His assistant gives you a curt nod and presses a button on her desk that slides open the door. Same colorful office as always, littered with idle fascinations to occupy him during long meetings or periods of thought. While nodding along to a rant he's receiving through the phone held to his ear, he gestures for you to come in and sit down. You've never forgotten a face, or anything at all. Throughout the game, you can select Recall. Upon meeting characters to search your near perfect memory for information. And the memory may be useful for solving the case ahead. Alright, so let's try that now, I guess. It's not hard to remember the space. Everyone knows Sestro Olenthal, the heir to the executive, and next in line for control over the entire corporate machine. He's been gradually assuming influence over more of the company hierarchy as he prepares to come into power with his ancestors' old age. This means you're taking orders from someone half your age who wears sweater vests. You'd be upset about it, but you're a consummate professional, and he's sweet enough. He's got a real piece of work of a mate spirit, though. Right now he looks downright sour. Once you recognize the sandpaper harsh, salty voice assaulting his ear, you feel a twinge of sympathy. The Rypitonian elite are rarely sensible, but few could match the talent for absolute nonsense that Calder Mercarian has displayed over the sweeps. You watch your employer pinch the bridge of his nose with 2 fingers. Jaw clenches as he listens to Carrion go on and on about late shipments. And of the driver he passes off as a magazine, and you wonder, oh, you aren't being paid to listen to the grievances of Mr. Enthal's flock of fledgling hyperloopers, so you don't. Sestro rolls his eyes theatrically as he hits some high point when he finally meets her gaze. He mouths something looking pained, and he can't not pitch it. He stole fizzy lifting drinks. He doesn't even drink it. Either way, you're certain you don't care. He makes a kind gesture across his throat with his hand and points to the phone receiver for her benefit while making his voice perfectly pleasant and neutral for Calders. Well, he assumes that, he assures him that Corporate will do all in his ability to ensure the timely delivery of his shipment. And if he could, he'd only answer a few questions. You stand up, draw a pistol, and aim over the phone's receiver and off to the Sestra's side, towards the enormous windows that make up the office's outer wall. Well, you watch Sestra cup his hand over his loose ear while the twin then sounds a gunshot. Then the sounds of a gunshot and punctured glass ring painfully in your own. Immediately, the corporate security alarm blares to life. You watch Sestra mouth something. We'll call you back, maybe, and hang up. Immediately turning to his computer and turning the alarm back off before the system's response can get too serious. A few defensive drones fly into the office as you put your gun away. But it's been a long time since they were first given license to use deadly force. Those in corporate's halls. They see nothing wrong in the office and dutifully fly away. Sestra regards you with what seems like equal parts annoyance and gratitude for a moment, then presses a button on his computer and instructs it to remind him to address his caller's concerns later. He pauses. The third email he adds, and then he turns to you. Effective as ever, Miss Ayapara. Not that I feel it was necessary to damage corporate assets like that. Even suspected threat that can often serve as one of the better excuses with which to place the distractingly powerful. Well, they can relate to the fear of it. There's no damage to speak of anyway. Sestra is so used to the show he doesn't turn around, but you regard the broken hole in the window with keen and if distant interest. The broken edges of the glass have already started to leak, oozing translucent drops which turn to silky threads of liquid crystal. Within moments, the substance will coat the hole between inside and outside and freeze solid, as if no breach ever occurred. I was speaking of your hearing faculties, Miss Ayapara. Since as keen as yours are hard to come by, and while I'm sure we could repair any damage done to either of us, time is at premium at the moment. I need you on top form, so please do take care of yourself going forward. Of course. Are you and Miss Libetta? You shoot him a glare. You're really in no mood to talk personal matters. Understandable, I didn't mean to overstep. Consider my concern, and thank you for freeing up my afternoon from grub sitting. On the subject of which, your assignment. I trust you've heard of the Byzantine Empire? Sestra pauses it, as if he expects a reply, but you've been in here long enough to know better. Nobody hasn't heard of the Byzantines. One of the oldest civilizations known to Rypite's past. They were famed as a rowdy, macabre bunch in their golden age. In this age, they're lost. Skeletons of their society is all that's left of them. After he collects his thoughts, he continues. It was last night, here we had a security breach in the northern waste. He's near the site of some Byzantine ruins. And a transport convoy was compromised. There were casualties. 2 guards plus the convoy's driver, all 3 were found executed face down under the snow. He slides pictures of the bodies across the table to you. You whistle in awe at the sight. clean cuts. This is professional work. The convoy wasn't operating on its regular schedule. Well, anyone who might have known about the order to reroute the convoy, these transit, it could have set us up. And the list of names, of course. How that was taken was clearly special. Does my assignment include retrieval, and if so, do I get to know what it is? It always pays to tell your superiors you can then predict them. And the more aware they are, or you know what you're doing better than they do, the less they bother to get in your way. And Sestro, for his part, seems reassured by your surety. He looks at you uncertainly for a moment, and as if he'd say something. Then he sighs. He gets up, turns away from you, and looks out towards the window. You resist the urge to roll your eyes. The kid makes a spectacle of this window whenever he genuinely cares about something. And you're tempted to gently inform him it's the shitty excuse for a poker face every time. But you aren't paid to give advice, so instead you wait to listen. And eventually he speaks. Your powers of perception continue to shine, Miss Ayapara. It's wonderful to know I can rely on you at times such as these. Yeah, kid. You answer her head. You wonder if you'll ever be able to get your briefings done without the pointless flattery. Right, of course. I will need you to discover who from corporate leaked such crucial information into our assailants. And uncovering the identity of the thieves and bringing them to justice will also be among your duties. But your most important task by far is to return our lost cargo to us. All these ruins were originally Byzantine, and they remain designated as such on official records. We have strong reason to believe that the location was appropriated by worshippers of the Vivifier. That earns ancestor your brow, raising genuine interest. You've heard rumors about the Vivifier, and all the old legends, of course. But even as high up of the corporate ladder as you are, this is the first time you've heard the name spoken so seriously. The hand that was taken was then from us was a filtered nerve we believed to be her own blood. I trust I don't have to explain further why its recovery is so crucial. Sister is doing that thing where he sort of strokes a glass, all contemplative angst. But even though you feel he does this every time you see him, it doesn't feel tired and empty this once. You think of what the stories say about the Vivifier's blood. That can heal wounds or create untethered everlasting life. Maybe even save Rypite, if Trollkind understood its mysteries well enough. You can guess well enough that that's what Ancestor is thinking. At least some things never change. I think the situation speaks for itself. Good. Expect a message from Edge with their names and any other points of data we feel you may find useful shortly. Expect you to start working on this immediately. You understand? Of course, Mr. Enthal. Excellent. And your services are appreciated as ever, miss. Especially if that isn't too forward. Your employer's voice catches on his breath. The hit would have been imperceptible to most people, but if you were most people, well, you wouldn't be anywhere you are. You already know what he's going to say, and and you're already tired of it. But as much as being a professional is holding your tongue while other people are not. We should impress on you that this assignment, this one more than any I've asked of you yet, it is truly. He looked just past Sestro to the half-melted healing mess as of glass by his hand. And you wonder how much he really believes he can fix things in this broken world. Whether it's with another small vial of one more substance, or really anything else. You suppose he knows the earnestness of the desire is noble, at least. But not all things that chatter heals like his glass does. If someone were to ask for your opinion, you suppose you'd say, "Hey, you believe this world knows chatter from the start, with the poison choking it down to its deepest center. Sometimes things are just broken and they stay broken. For good." There's a beat of silence between you. He looks at you for a moment, seems downright vulnerable, in a way that almost threatens to move you. Maybe it's not the world that's broken, maybe it's just your heart. Either way, hey, not much about this world holds your interest, and even less seems worth saving. But you suppose if someone has to run this planet, it may as well be this kid, and who really seems to want to fix it. And you guess that's something. I'm counting on you, Cecily. Thank you. In any case, you're not paid to have opinions, existential or otherwise. Of course, Mr. Unthal. All for good. You're paid to get results. Now, prep later, you have a briefcase full of files, including the deck of Rolodex cards. There's a suspect, and some potential allies you'll be dealing with on this case. The Rolodex identification system provides a simple card-based interface for field agents and regulators who must interface with a large number of suspects when managing their caseload. As the name suggests, it was originally a physical filing system. Entire warehouses used to be dedicated just to maintaining the records. The dwindling population size and the marvels of digitization now mean that the whole thing is accessible at any time at any location. Despite the convenience, you still find yourself resorting to the real cards once in a while when you need to focus on a particularly troubling case. Sometimes something about holding a person's life in your hands strengthens your resolve. It's a little strange, but you take your own card with you wherever you go. It sits in the breast pocket just above your blood pressure. If someone wants to run you through, they'll have to do it twice over. That's a little joke you tell yourself. Nobody's managed it so far, and after Call Suite, the card has come to be a sort of good luck charm. You keep another card close to your chest, but for different reasons. Promise long overdue. You step through the streets as you've memorized like a hymnal since you first was accommodated in Stronghold 21 over 10 sweeps ago. Brisk winter day, he scarfadone trolls dome in your eyes as you brace it. Gaze against the wind and look at the trees. He is still green. They're fake, of course, just like everything else inside these walls. In truth, you've never felt at ease here. Hear, hear the slick branding in the nightlight, the convenience drones and social media stars, booze and sugar, or for every well-off Lotus eater, while blood spills across the dying world outside. You step over a crushed soda cup of the automated street sweeper mist and swing your leg over your motorbike. You adjust your helmet and then kick it into gear. Letting the purr of the engine carry you out of town. You arrive at the site head in the northern waste. It's a few hours later. It's mid-afternoon, and though the weather was clear and bright all morning, it's still bitterly cold. When you hit the tundra, you enter into a fierce snowstorm. When the last half hour of the journey was spent battling against poor visibility and harsh wind. The blizzard settles down into a light snowfall by the time you reach the convoy, though. And 3 guards meet you there, 2 all bloods and a bronze. They all look extremely bored and cold, and you can't blame them. Hopefully you can wrap up here soon, and then they can go home and do the same. Wrap up, you mean? You remove your helmet and shake your hair loose, brushing a few snowflakes off your arms and shoulders. As the bronze blood guard jogs over to where you're parked, you take a moment to survey the scene. After taking note of some key points of interest, you turn to face a guard as she greets you. She seems to be the one in charge, or rather she was until you got here. And to exchange some formalities, flash your card and so on. And she walks you through what's happened since the convoy was discovered. In short, she says not a lot. Nobody has disturbed the scene of the bodies or anything else since a preliminary investigation late last night. Security only got wind of the event due to the vehicle's automated system, she says. Other than that, there was no indication of anything unusual taking place. What about before the security backup arrived, you ask? Maybe someone tampered with the scene in the meantime. She says it's possible, but they didn't see any evidence of that when they got out here. What about the driver, you ask? She says, what about them? You say that there should be 3 bodies here, but you only count the 2 guards. She says, oh right, the subcontractor that assigned them to the job took the body away this morning. You say that's a pretty loose definition of not disturbing anything. Just, yeah, whatever. You're not surprised though. No, drivers are often equipped and outfitted with company gear and uniforms, and their hands are usually chipped to the activation code for the vehicle they're assigned to. It's only natural that they'd want to recover it as soon as possible. Still, you say you'll have to chase that up later, and that's paperwork you'd rather not get tied up in. The guard just shrugs, palms up in the universal sign language of the chronically underpaid, as is common and among low-bloods. Alright, you say, you get the picture. Or she says she guesses you'll be wanting to start the investigation then. You say, yeah, it's been several thousand words already. She walks off to reconvene with her 2 colleagues. In an investigation, the main goal is to find key pieces of information. And the investigation progress bar on your overhead visor lets you keep track of this. Nobody knows how it works. If you're honest, but it certainly seems to come in handy. Not everything you find will get that happy little bar moving, but every time you score another insight increment, a little feeling happens in your blood pressure. That feeling is called progress. Well, let's go right for the bodies. Make your way over to the two corpses lying in prone. Looks like you've got rust blood and gold blood here. A pair of them are laid out straight, arms by their sides, legs flat against the ground. They were probably on their knees first before they fell forwards. No sign of a struggle from where you're standing. Combination of rigor mortis and the temperature means are now stiff as in the literal sense, as well as the metaphoric. Well, now that you think about it, you guess the literal sense, and this is where the expression originally comes from. Whatever, you're not a wordologist. Putting on a pair of work gloves and making sure they're not to disturb the scene too much, you carefully roll the two of them over to get a closer look. Then you notice immediately is wounds, 2 clean cuts, one across either neck. From that, you surmise that they probably bled to death. And the next thing you notice, almost as immediately, the expression is on their faces. Their eyes and mouths are wide open. They look like they were utterly terrified. The one on the left, the gold blood was an adult in his mid to late teens by the looks of it. You'd estimated maybe 15 sweeps at a pass. You don't recognize him. There's something about the younger rust blood on the right that strikes you as familiar. Let's take a look at the familiar one first. You decide to examine the troll you recognize a little more closely. And you get a good look at their face, and close your eyes and search your memory. Recall the reflector. As you concentrate, your recollection seems to coalesce as of the void, forming gradually like a bead of water, or before dropping and splashing across your consciousness all at once. You remember seeing them just once before. It was in one of the various eating halls inside the walls of Stronghold 21 about half a sweep ago. They were around 12 sweeps old at the time, judging by the fact that there was a certain bright optimism on their faith that which hadn't yet been stamped out. The horror of this world bides its time for some people. Not fortunate for them. The encounter wasn't even a proper meeting. They were just some stranger eyes lingered on a moment longer than usual. You notice them leaning against a pillar, handheld mobile device in hand with a distinctly sour expression on their face. The way they were drilling holes into the screen with their eyes gave the impression that they were waiting for someone to get in touch. Frustrating business colleague, perhaps. As all mother knows, you spent enough corporate hours waiting for the right people, able to buzz you, and just as much time hoping that they want all the same. You turn to hand a loop or three, each to the elderly Burgundy behind the counter, her horns gnarled and helical. You can remember the exact amount if you care to, but you're not focusing on it right now. After picking up the freshly boiled soda, carbonated but not glucamated, and the lateral wheat fiber stack, you turned back in their direction. While your back was turned, their face seemed to have morphed into a gleeful yet still gentle, unreserved expression of pure delight. They were now standing upright and excitedly tapping away their device in their hands. Their eyes had softened at the corners and a faint blush danced across their cheeks. Oh, you thought? Of course. You open your eyes, it's almost regretting the exercise. Your inability to forget that can be a cruel thing sometimes. Maybe, most of the times in fact. You search for nursing in Blood's body. You don't find anything of note, just some personal effects. A pack of little drops, a worn photograph, their phone. Without thinking, you go to wake it, and you feel a sharp rush of relief as it doesn't light up. The battery must have died overnight. You put it back in their pocket. The last thing you check is the ID tag tied to their ankle with a sense of dread. These things are always rather morbid to look at, but they're an important means of sorting out the mess after patrol kicks it. Or, in this case, has it kicked for them. Corporate Employment Asset 32200, Bystand Nocent. And Designation Logistical Security, Will/Testament, and Undocumented, Bondmates M. That last letter, her curls painfully in her chest. Shit. They have a bonded mate spread out there. There's somewhere someone who just has felt a twinge of pain but doesn't know why yet. Someone whose life won't ever be the same again. Just one more soul who will be filing their temp papers tomorrow, not really knowing how they'll manage it, if they'll manage it. It sure takes you back. You stay there for a while, kneeling beside Nelson's body in the snow, then you sigh and pull yourself back upright. As I'll look at the other body as well. Well, while we're here, you get closer. Let's look at the gold blood. No stranger besides the neck wound, he doesn't appear to have sustained any other injuries. That strikes you as very odd. You suspect that they were threatened at a distance, and since otherwise they wouldn't have knelt without kicking up a fuss. Certainly you'd expect to see some incidental bruising if there was a scuff up. It would make sense if they were occupied in front, though. It would make sense if they were occupied in front, though. Oh, perhaps someone came up from behind in the meantime, and yeah, you pinned that explanation to the top of your mental list as the most plausible for now. You gently flips the guy's his pockets. There's a couple envelopes and spare change, a spike block, a key card, the beginnings of a pretty substantial lint collection, a handful of soda bottle caps, nothing of any importance. Although who are you to judge? Maybe the lint was his ancestors. From the fact that this stuff was kept in his pocket, you deduce that he wasn't in the habit of using a fetch modus. Same goes for his companion too. Perhaps they couldn't afford them. Not everyone can. Wrote the call quit, and it's here when you glance down into one of his hands. It appears to be holding something. You pry his finger is open. You take a look at the ID card, the ID tag around his wrist. The corporate employment and the asset 03220, Vivanti Neutral. Well, designation and logistical security. Will/Testament undocumented. Bondmates none. Poor guy, at least he's not leaving anyone behind to suffer sweeps of withdrawal. You don't let that thought carry on. You don't. Finally managed to force the hand open. Nestled in the palm was a small ball-shaped device. surface has several small holes in it, and there's a flap on the back that looks like a wing case. You recognize it as a maintenance drone. These things are always carried on logistics transports. Drones they're used to check and fix mechanical problems, since it's unfeasible to have a resident and mechanic for every convoy. This one looks like it's been crushed. Did this guy in Drexel do that? You try and rip a diagnostic from it, but it's probably been out in the cold too long to show any signs of life now. Perhaps this explains why the convoy was stopped in the first place. But now, if the vehicle was hampered with somehow, then the first thing that the crew would do is try and identify systems failure. What a nasty trap to walk into. 25% already. So I guess all three of the remaining ones will probably be another. I mean, there's 4 remaining, so not all of them will be 25%. Just had to scout the surrounding area just to be sure. It's highly likely that the response team is something that they arrived during the night. Starting with the ground between the transport and the bodies, you begin to sweep for footprints. You establish pretty quickly that the only tracks in the vicinity belong to you, and by comparison with the guards' prints from earlier, your 3 companions. Otherwise, the snow which fell all overnight, it has completely coated the ground in a pristine layer of white. It sitting unbroken like fondant on a Yule passing in confection. You don't remember the last time you had one of those? Well, that's not true. You remember it with perfect clarity, just like everything else. But you'd rather not think about it, so you don't. What's important is that it was a long time ago. And what's more important than that is that there's no trace of the culprit that's to be seen. This little hillock a small ways out from where the transporters were stopped, and Leo have any better ideas, you decide to see if a little elevation reveals anything. You trudge your way up the slight incline, boots crunching and squeaking against the ice and snow. From the higher vantage point, you can see the whole scene in one picture. Transport, the bodies, the security teams or bike, and beyond on the field, of white patch with streaks of gray and brown and sickly green extends as far as you can see in all directions. There's no sign of anything from up here either. Shit. On the way back down, a harsh wind whips up for a moment, and you grip your long coat around your neck against the chill that it brings. Well, at least the cold isn't toxic. The northern weight, he's are forever being buffeted by the very worst of the Epidon's recalcitrant and climate has to offer. Almost nobody lives here. The region seems to exist as somewhere to be traveled across, neither else rather than a real place in and of itself. And while such places can sometimes be enjoyable to pass through, the very opposite is true here. The way strike you as more of a cruel joke than anything else, a deadly expanse, and separating 2 of the planet's most populous regions. And this reversal is a perpetual nightmare, logistically and otherwise. You arrive back at the crime scene with no better idea of the situation than when you left. An absence of information can itself be an important detail. But there There are no insight increments he had at this time. He needs to try something else. Okay, so that was just an empty opportunity for a little exposition, I guess. I need to go grab something to drink real quick. My sinuses are getting a little dry. Just use this scene as an impromptu BRB, as I don't have one set up at the moment. I am back and ready to continue. You just need to step away for a bit of refreshment. And now continue down the list with the cockpit. You decide to check the inside of the driving compartment. The driver and the two guards are all stationed in the same chamber at the very front of the vehicle. A set of concertina 8 steps leads up to the entryway. These got deployed automatically when the doors were opened and stayed that way since the crew never returned. A fair bit of snow blew inside overnight, so the floor and seats are flecked with the white and slush. Besides the mess jointly formed by the inclement weather and the usual layer of record detritus, so there doesn't seem to be any sign of disarray in the compartment. If there was a struggle at any point, it didn't happen here. That means the driver and the two guards probably got out of their own accord. You have a pretty good hunch why. There's an angry red light humming in and out of the main info screen. The emergency overlay is activated. Apparently in response to the driver's extended absence. This transport convoys these play such a huge role in Rypite's and the socio-economic system. The risk of them getting into trouble is taken very seriously as a matter of survival. A truck driver's chip, while allowing them to activate the vehicle in the first place, also acts kind of like the pen in a grenade. Like if a grenade were designed for safety purposes. This is an unspeakably shitty analogy, but now you're going with it anyway. Point being, if the driver is out of the compartment for more than in the short period between stops, the onboard computer automatically registers an emergency and backup is called for. In a totally non-explosive manner. It occurs to you that the system which allowed the driver to get and stretch their legs every once in a while might have resulted in better job satisfaction. Or rather, it would occur to you if the notion of job satisfaction existed on your planet. Does it exist anywhere? I suppose if it knows if you're the kind of mindless drone that dreams of serving the Empire with all of your with your whole blood pusher, or not to mention your entire life, I suppose you can be pretty satisfied. And you lean over the dashboard and tap a menu icon on the screen, and the warning light fades out one final time. Taking one last glance around, you see an open book with its pages turned down on the far passenger seat. Looks like it must have belonged to one of the two guys up front. Cocking your head to one side, you can read the title. Well, it's called "Board My Bong Water and Look at Me Now: The Turnin' Haikai Story." Oh wow! Someone was a big fan of a certain internet daredevil. Apparently, doesn't look like the uncanny ability to survive. If pretty much anything being rubbed off on their beloved reader, though. The book seems really well loved. Picking it up, you can see that either the spine is broken in several places from overuse, and lots of the pages have been folded over at the corners. Some of them even appear to be missing. And flipping to the front, and you take a peek at the nameplate. It sticks to the inside cover. This book is just dying to be devoured by an event. There's a little heart next to the penciled in name. Now I wonder, are the pages missing because Evan took that phrasing literally? Like, has Evan been consuming the pages of the book? You put the book back. You feel like wiping your hands on something. Then you onto the tires. You walk around the bodies in a wide circle, approaching the vehicle to get a closer look at the tires. Let's call it a hunch. And the fresh snow is gradually piling up around the transport. The gentle curve between the white and the wheel arches makes it look like the ground is coyly grabbing at the tires, not wanting to let them go. There's something almost tender about it, which it belies It is a very real danger. Danger of getting stranded out here in the waste is not a situation anyone wants to be in. Another hour or so and someone's going to have to get digging. And your feet plunge a ways down into the frozen mass as you get in close and begin to scrabble away with your hands, carving the wheels out in order to get a better view. The first view you look at don't reveal much. The wheels are in a dual configuration, laid out in pairs along the length of the transport, so you take them 2 by 2. The voice of an old acquaintance pops up in your subconscious while you do this, mumbling inane facts about the vehicle's model, the wheel configurations, the tire manufacturing. All Mother knows why she tells you this stuff. You have a knack for recalling useful information when it's needed, though. And just like that, you notice that all these tires have been retreaded at least once. And as for some of them, the process this was done very recently, in fact. Retreading wheels this size usually means that it's more expensive to replace them altogether. Going by the age of the vehicle, though, I would say it's more like a desperate attempt to keep it going as long as possible. This one's probably, its last legs. Last wheels. Well, as you reach the last pair of tires and repeat your routine of digging them out with your hands, and then skimming around the inside of the cars and wheel arches with your fingers. This time, though, you find something. Your fingers meet a small oblong object, probably no longer than a pack of cards that was stuck out of sight on the underside of the arches. This is most definitely not supposed to be here. Planting your feet either side of the wheel and bracing, reach your other hand under the metal rim and pull it down. Doesn't budge for a moment, but then pop. With that, the object comes loose very suddenly, and you stumble backwards a little ways. Your grip on it doesn't hold, and it falls out of your grasp and down into the snow. Now bouncing off the rubber. You're righting yourself and dusting a little of the snow off your coat. You bend forwards to take a look at this thing and where it fell. It appears to be the remains of a small box. The casing is burned and charred, half melted, and barely holding together. Some wiring is poking out at odd angles, and you can make out something akin to an aerial at one end. It's almost destroyed beyond recognition, but you don't need to be an expert to know what this thing is, what it represents. Sabotage. And onto the cargo. You move around to the very rear of the transport, looking for the entry point into the cargo hold. One of the two faceless all-blood guards sees what you're doing and comes over to point at the access terminal for you. She offers you a key card, saying she's not authorized to open the door herself. Apparently is authorized to carry its key card. You take it and thank her. Or you keep quiet about the personal access card in your jacket pocket. The one which, as a regulator, you have the right to carry. You don't need her help, but it's good to let the kids think they're part of something important. And you find it hard to think of these people as anything but wigglers sometimes. Besides, it's part of your job as a higher up to not let people feel redundant. At least right up until the moment they are, then it's a different story. You have, you wave the borrowed card of the receiver, and a loud, harsh buzzing noise it signifies that the lock is disengaging. Together with an almighty clunk as the bolts retract. And you hand the card back to the guard and climb up into the transport. The inside of the hold is lit up in a pale green light, which blinks into life even when you open the cargo door. One of the bulbs at the far end and struggles to come on, sputtering like a sick spark bug. The cargo itself is packed in boxes of varying shapes and sizes, all of which are arranged in a very intricate pattern. And on it, in a series of shells that range from small cubes all the way up to crates taller than you. The arrangement of the cargo is determined via an algorithm which picks the optimal way to store the eclectic mix of items to be delivered on any given trip. It's a clever system, but sometimes it leads to something very small being packed inside a box which is 4 times larger than it needs to be. That's one of its disadvantages. The other main drawback is that unless you know the arrangement beforehand, and it's very hard to know where any particular item will be. Fortunately, the thieves took care of that for you. That's also the unfortunate part, of course. There's a single empty slot on a shelf up about halfway down the length of the transport, roughly the size of a briefcase. The filter must have been taken from here. There are probably hundreds of vans worth of valuable resources in this transport, together with provisions and trade goods and electronics. But the thieves didn't go for any of it, just the filter. The fact that the rest of the crates weren't disturbed at all also tells you immediately that they knew exactly where to look. Like the schedule change wasn't the only thing, and your little snitch implied another little snitch spilled the beans on then. The more you find out about this case, the less you like it. And yet there's something that's beginning to thrill you, even now. There's something quite like an opponent who knows what they're doing. You duck back out of the hold. And then the door shuts and locks automatically behind you. Looks like you're done here. By now, the light is starting to dim. And you've checked everything you wanted to. It's about time you began to head back to the stronghold. This report isn't going to submit itself, you think bitterly. You've tried that one before. You thank the guards for their help and let them know they can start cleaning up here. The olive blood from earlier is looking pretty flustered. It is looking pretty flushed, presumably from the cold. Hopefully she gets someplace warm. You make your departure with a curt nod and walk back over to your bike. Some of the snow has begun to pile up on your seat. You brush it off and swing it, and one unlike go before starting the engine up. Before gunning it out of here, you get one last look at the scene. Take in the bodies, the vehicle, all the endless white. You try and picture in your mind and that last frantic moment. in the dead of night when the three people's lives were cut short. In a few hours, this place will be empty again. Nothing but some blood beneath the snow to mark what happened here. But you'll remember. As night continues to fall on the journey home, you find yourself running over the few scraps of information you're able to find. The absence of any fighting, the sabotage of the vehicle, and all the pinpoint accuracy of the robbery itself. Something doesn't quite make sense here. The execution was just a little too perfect in both senses of the word. If it isn't just your average cultist job, you'd expect a little less finesse. As most of these fanatics haven't even heard of the word finesse, let alone get enough to carry out a scheme that's flawless. Could it have been an inside job? It doesn't seem particularly likely, and yet the intel that leaked had to come from somewhere, someone. I'm kind of thinking that the third person on in the crew had something to do with it. As much as we've been told that their body has already been recovered, we have not seen the body. So can he really confirms that they're even dead? But what reason would corporate have to steal from their own convoy? Could it have been a ruse to shake potential third parties off the trail? Sestro seemed so righteous in his office, despite the theatrics. You've known that boy since he was a wiggler, and something tells you he'd never sign off on something like this. But if not him, then maybe. This isn't getting you anywhere. This case is just getting started. It's no good seeing threats for no reason. That's never the best move on the table. You need much more information. Suddenly an alert rings out from your visor, jolting you out of your train of thought. Someone's trying to contact you. This strikes you as unusual for two different reasons. Firstly, the caller information is withheld. Whoever it is has something to hide. They almost offering themselves up as a suspect from the outset. Suspicious calls on the way back from the crime scenes don't tend to be inquiries about your health. The second reason is that you haven't had a personal call in ages. You pick up. I'm so glad you were assigned to this case. When your name flashed up on my interface, I knew this was all worth it. I've been following your work, you know. Too many trolls on this planet don't appreciate the really skilled, obsessed with idle celebrity, sucking down whatever swell their paymasters feed them. I respect you. You deliver your idea of good and face to face. You should be famous, Cecily. Anyone should know the trail of bodies you've left behind. How did you get this contact? That's a tedious question. You can do better. Fine. And what can you tell me about the scene I just left behind? Trying to scope out how much I know. No, still just trying to find the bounds of my power. Standard opening, safe. But you can't play for the draw here. There's simply too much on the line. Your focus on what not happened and won't bring you any closer to understanding. To triumph, you must sit. You can't just take orders and march. You've talked yourself in circles and you call me tedious. Answer the question. 100 trucks cross the remote corners of this planet every day. 100 containers of valuables, raw metals, all fodder for craft, fruits of the labor of thousands of trolls. Every part contaminated by greed and filth. But only the blood was taken. Why? Do you know its properties? I want to help you understand. I really do. Here you will by the end. I think you'll agree with me too. You've been purging this planet of refuse for so long. You've done nothing to convince me you're not part of it. We're all part of it, lapdog. I'm going to give you the tools to break your chain. Idolic acres plus 2.112 days. Listen close. The call clicks out. Nothing but the sound of wind and whipping past you. When the hum of your motor are left to accompany you as the sun fully disappears behind the horizon and your headlamp shines into the distance. I always do. You make the rest of the journey back to the stronghold without additional excitement. As you approach the outer walls, you get a message. It's from one of your superiors. Looks like they tried to call you while you were talking to whoever it was. 2 in 1 day, you'd think something was wrong. Oh wait. The message is just a room number and a meeting time. Efficient as always. A few minutes later, you're walking back into the dimly lit foyer of the corporate headquarters. A short elevator ride finds you striding past mostly empty cubicles, soda coolers, and falsified office foliage. The trolls still here are the late night strivers, eager to prove themselves. Could they be eager to atone, to assuage their own guilt? You make a mental note of everyone and around out of habit, but quickly cut that train of thought. Not off before it goes anywhere. No point in being unnecessarily suspicious of people. Not at this stage. On the far side of the floor at the end of the hallway, a tall figure stands waiting. As she sees you coming, she beckons once and then vanishes into one of the many many doors lining both sides of the corridor. You hurry onwards, managing to catch the door before it closes and sidle your way in gently. Quietly. The corporate building seems to have more conference rooms than they know what to do with. Certainly more than any normal company could use. Then again, normality is a concept that tends to get left behind when you're dealing with the end of the world. It's very dark in here. There's barely any light to see by. Apart from the faint glow from your overhead visor and the occasional flash of lightning outside. You consider trying to find a light switch, but then perhaps that would ruin the effect. The tall, shadowy figure that was in the room when you entered slips into a shaft of light, and you can make her out clearly for the first time. Recalled, Hamaphi Hecrix. Hamaphi Hecrix is maybe one of the more of a no-nonsense corporate cutthroat than her knitwear-loving mate spirit, but she has the same underlying instinct for dramatic flair, near bordering on the comical. They were almost made for each other. You have to remind yourself this is in fact very literally true. But between her sulking, hanging in the shadows, and looking forlornly out into the windows every few moments, it's a wonder these kids get any work done. And now the effective second-in-command of the corporate machine is standing in front of you with an expectant look on her face. She's holding her signature clipboard, even though that's not at all visible here. Her weapon of choice for a ruthless itinerarian. Get right to it. She doesn't bother saying anything. She just clicks the end of her pen once, somehow managing to make it sound like a question. And you both know she's here to report on the burglary, so you know to get right to it. Your eyes drift shut as you begin to recount the afternoon's findings. Something about the darkness makes it easier, or like you're giving the information an emptiness to fill up. Your mouth moves of its own accord, recalling everything in discrete, itemized chunks. All the while, the faint scratching of pen on paper accompanies a low murmur. It's an odd kind of music the two of you make together sometimes, a routine that's familiar, despite the business atmosphere. Eventually, it dies down, the story comes to an end, and you open your eyes again. Anarchy has stopped writing. She's looking down at her clipboard, deep in thought, brows slightly furrowed. After a few moments of silence, she looks at you again and speaks for the first time. In your opinion, what sort of people are we dealing with here? Her voice is proper, professional, poised. I'm not sure. There are several reasonable possibilities with varying degrees of mutual exclusivity. The only certainty is that whoever they are, they have some kind of connection with corporate. The amount of information they must have had access to speaks to that. I can't say if it's anything as serious as a mounted mammal within the organization, or just a matter of bad bookkeeping. Her eyes narrow at that suggestion, but either way, there's clearly some avenue through which these people were able to exploit internal information for their own ends. The heist was far too clean, too perfect. It was almost impressive. Hamaphi is frowning openly now and as her hypothesizing short, with an open hand, with an upraised hand. This robbery was it was far from a watertight operation, Miss Ayapara, and you of all people should understand why. There was one key detail which demonstrates it. The bodies at the scene, the murder of our employees. That was mess. That was uncalled for, an unforgivable waste of pearl resources. The theft itself was so perfect that the deaths were clearly unnecessary. Anyone with that complete picture of the situation and should have managed to avoid bloodshed altogether. You made it sound as if they almost respect these people, but this isn't a game that you're playing. No comment. These criminals aren't intended to be challenged, they're scourged to be cleansed. Their blood on the snow, just like the mess they left behind. That's 3 more empty jobs I have to fill somehow. That's more temp work that needs to be done. There's something on sucking us dry. While we try and fix this entire planet, another vital asset plucked from our grasp as we has worked tirelessly, endlessly around the clock. As I thought that was a slash somehow, not an italicized I. Worked tirelessly, endlessly, around the clock. Time is not on our side. This crime is a mockery, it points straight at corporate itself. Her voice has barely changed in volume this whole time. To you it sounds like Hanafi has begun shouting by this point. Her words are ice cold and dripping with anger. Her is snowbound blood. You don't know how to respond to this, and so you would like not to say anything altogether. Years of experience tell you that in situations like these, the best move was not to make one. You're in zigzwang. MFE breathes in and out pointedly for a few moments before seeming to collect herself once more as her face inches imperceptibly back to an impression of complete calm. Sestro may take a more lax approach to deploying corporate assets, but I'm never one to let a good thing go to waste. Just remember, Miss Ayapara, you're as much an investment as any of our other initiatives, and safeguarding investments is where I come in. This investigation may run darker and more foul than you realize. Don't trust anyone. Well, this is new. She seems cautious, almost like she's nervous about something. She gives you a very direct look with this last warning, and you can tell that she knows about your little bit of fan mail. The fact that someone else was contacting you so soon after leaving the crime scene is enough to make her suspicious. Perhaps rightfully so, but all the same, it strikes you as more than a little wigglerish. Don't worry, Miss Hackrix. I'm not about to get into the habit of it now, but any potential pockets of useful uncertainty should be examined and exploited before being discarded. You of all people should be able to appreciate that I didn't get that so far in my career without being open to every possibility. I highly doubt there will be any kind of confrontation, and that this person seems too content to hide in the shadows, and even if there is just you, remember, my winning streak has been going since before you and your betrothed were hatched. It's not going to get into the hands of some anonymous prankster. See to it that it doesn't. Of no use to us otherwise. And with that, your superior clicks at the end of her pen in a way that lets you know that this meeting is over, and or as you quickly and abruptly as it began. She glides over to the door and leaves without not sparing you a second glance. And you don't hang around either, but by the time you're back in the corridor, she's already vanished. Her head is full. Something isn't adding up here. Here, and all you got is the biggest variable. Oh, you need some space and time. You walk past the rows of cubicles, aware of anxious eyes on you. Sister is often nervous, fretting, obsessing about one thread or another. Or he crams as much history into his head, so much history into his head, that you think maybe he just starts reliving it sometimes. The importance of it, the second renaissance around every corner. It's understandable, though, he's the mask, the public's face, the direction everyone's facing while he does all the dirty work. And the problem with being the mask is you have to look back at them. But seeing Hammerfeed paranoid, that's rare. And now that you have time to think about it, strikes you as unsettling. You've watched the two of them go through a lot of moods over the sweeps, settling into their roles and assuming authority. Hammerfeed took it more comfortably than her mates were, or at least he's appeared to. You wonder what she knows that you don't. What would lead her to her unusual show of concern, unfiltered as it is to her desire to protect the company. The open-ended possibilities start to close in on you. You get a constriction in your chest from being surrounded by those you've been told not to trust. You're getting caught up in speculation. Before you know it, you're back in the elevator. Soft music buzzing, blurring to a mindless din in your ears. You breathe a sigh of relief, then the doors shut, without anyone else coming in. And you don't have an idle conversation in you right now. A very long time ago, you learned a number of exercises to deal with overwhelming feelings from a good friend. Call it an old therapy takeaway. As the elevator takes you up, and up you make a repetitive little motion with your hands, a ritual of calm. Four fingers on your left hand tap your right palm twice, then you switch. Fingers on your right hand, tapping the left palm. Tap, 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 tap. It helps you center yourself and focus as you exit the elevator on the top floor. Or take a single flight of stairs to the roof. The cool air is deliverance. And you walk to the edge of the building and look out on Stronghold 21. Pastel neon lights suffuse the streets. He's the faraway music of the Stronghold's nightlife. He thumps distantly. Colorful little advertisements flicker on LED screens. This week's Skyrim release. He's a new brand of sugary fizz. The 101st season of Who Wants to Be a Hyperlooper. That show hasn't been the same since a young man lost on it and destroyed the original set before spiraling into full-blown cult worship. But that's a story for another time. It's easy to look inside these walls and see what the revelers on the street see. A society without scarcity, of productivity and prosperity, but every bright light casts a shadow. You think of bodies face down in the snow, bondmates getting an impersonal phone call, all that will break them, and a deep breathing voice taunting you over her voice link. And you think of a thousand reasons someone would turn against this world. Well, you think of more why someone outside of it would steal, kill, break, just to tear it down. The breeze gives you a chill. Lines of probability start to firm up in your mind. This world is balanced on a precipice. And somewhere out there, a conspiracy has emerged to steal a piece of its history. And one that may push it over the edge. It's up to you. Time to make a plan. Alright, so it's looking like we'll probably get through about 2 chapters after today, so I will take this as an excellent opportunity to pause for a little while and get another drink. And then we will start on Volume 2 of Business and Busy Work when I return. Alright, I'm back. I can reach it. Alright, to continue onwards. Volume 2 of Business and Busy Work. A theft has occurred in the northern waste. Stolen a filter of the vivifier's blood. said to have has supernatural properties. In charge of the investigation, yourself. You have your orders, you have a case to solve. You think you should start close to home, known quantities. Easy. You've got 2 candidates in mind, and to interview first. You choose. So you have Suraj, Feltry, and Rypite, Koldan. Let's just start from left to right. Each Rypite Cauldron. A simple enough start. You feel you're not one for pulling a metaphorical hamstring. And you still have a day before you'll be heading to idyllic acres. Just can't waste your time. And it feels good to be hunting for a squeak beast. After so long. You feel your vicious Verminator senses shed turquoise tears of joy. With a confusing portmanteau. Oh, you're not quite sure if the latter half of Verminator's wordology is Terminator or Exterminator. Perhaps you could claim it's a portman trio. No, there weren't many particularly interesting details attached to Colden's name, but regardless, you'll pay him a visit. His ties to Scorp would potentially give him access to deadly secrets. And it's once you arrive, security is perfectly apathetic and nonchalantly. He allows you inside once you flash your credentials. You spare half a thought, not wondering what he thinks you're doing here. You ignore it in favor of giving Rypite its Trollodex card, or another, or glances you into the elevator. As luck would have it, when the doors open to force of keyboards clacking like mechanical trip bugs, your eyes drift from the card to the man himself. You examine him from across the room. He appears to be talking to a coworker, judging from the frantic motions of his hands. He's explaining something big. This guy has always been one for animated gestures. Recall Rypite Koldan. This isn't the first time you've seen his face, but it's not really much more than the fourth. Or is it? You never forget a face, but even if you did, his would be off the table. It makes a strong impression, especially in the conference room when you first saw him in. He had ideas for Scorp themes. Relatively new concept, especially concerning you first heard of the app a few days prior. His arms would move about, but not unlike a cartoon character. The glow of the projector made his white teeth blinding. His smile almost looked fake from how real it looked. There were themes for each department of the company. You were rolling your eyes as he stood with the accountants, loyal logarithms, the security guards, ostentatious oculars, serious sass, secretary serenade. He'd mentioned that no one in particular was for the lovely lass in the front desk who evidently had a habit of dueling hearts onto her work papers when she was bored. Guy knows his audience. And when you looked to your left, you saw the exact secretary, face buried in her hands, in mild embarrassment. Not exactly a secret with her consequences, you'd think, but also you didn't care. Perhaps the strongest quality he has is his voice, deep but not rumbly like black honey. It demands attention. You can further recall all payments spent in the evolution trap with the patent pending inspo nuggets intermission and of the meeting in your mind's radio. But you try to later, but you try not to later recalls like that. Perhaps you should do your recollection outside the timed automatic doors next time. With a mental sigh, you open the doors again. You step out of the elevator and into the office. No time for games. Then as you wait for the first sign of a break in his conversation, and then approach him. You clear your throat and give him a curt nod as he turns toward you with a look of surprise on his face. Rypite Koldan, my name is... Oops, didn't you see... Neither. Didn't see you there. He reaches over to shake your hand with both of his catches you off guard. It reminds you uncannily of those old greeting machines used at corporate convenienceries. These have come to life at the press of a button. Creepy bastards. Thank goodness they've started using people in costume for that instead of robots. You appreciate a personal touch. Guilty as charged. Rypite Koldan. But looks like you already knew that. Guess my reputation precedes me. Clearly waiting for something. A laugh, you assume. Unfortunately for him, he flops. As a chuckle bunker or regulars say. My name is Cecily Ayapara, and I'm currently conducting an investigation of grave importance. I'd appreciate any time you have to spare for some questions. You like getting to the point. Oftentimes, the point means the point of your blade, and you can never turn down a chance of dance with blades. If only the chances ever came. Rypite's face seems somewhat frozen on a smile. He looks confused more than anything. Being questioned isn't exactly a difficult concept to wrap your head around, in your opinion. Oh, you want to talk to me? More believable than me asking this of your colleague over there. Or the one that I'm not presently engaging in conversation. Yes, you. The deal behind him is definitely finding his work very interesting right now. In an instant, his nose is buried in his computer monitor. He's smart, but not looking like he's clearly eavesdropping. Still, you'd prefer someplace more private. If you have to spend in the conversation counting his nervous tics and fidgets, you'll go mad. Perhaps if we could relocate this somewhere else. I wouldn't wish to disturb anybody's work. I'd hate to make you look bad. Of course, I'm happy to get a move on. It's as I always say, there's a time and place for all of us, don't you know? You give the worker behind him a curious glance, and his expression tells you that he has literally never said that before. Whatever, your eye has always is also caught a nameplate next to the door across the office space. And it's a name that was just used in an awful pun by its owner a mere seconds ago. Is that your office over there? I'd say maybe that would be a good place. If you wouldn't mind, of course. No, not at all, not at all. Oh, come on, it's this way. He's leading you to a clearly labeled room that you point out. Your hero. You spend the short trek re-examining the evidence, shifting through your mental documents and familiarizing yourself with the important facts. When he lets you in, you're taken aback from how personalized the room looks. It feels like it could not only be his, and you barely even know him. Your mind works fast as to find in the theme of the miscellaneous junk spread across the room. You see a joke book, a calendar with everyday marked, a miniature ray gun model. Arms order? Doesn't seem like the type. Maybe that microphone making itself comfortable on the desk catches your eye. He records something, apparently. Rypite seems just as surprised as you are, and as he rushes to tidy his desk up, you give a whiteboard nearby a glance. Based on the dual alien heads spreading satisfying inspirational slogans, someone's got that space on the mind. Your least favorite is the three-eyed alien telling you to reach for the stars. A little on the nose. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot I was having a synapse squall in here. You're taking a gander at my design work. We're working on a brand new Scorp theme, Celestial Crossroads. Do you know that from Rypite to a moon, the author's rough calculations on the requirements of the cannon able to launch 3 people into space were remarkably accurate? Fascinating, isn't it? His cannon was impractical, but it was quite a commendable attempt. You can talk trivia later. Take a seat, Mr. Coldan. You're not sure why you can see you were probably grabbing for a seat. But you can tell all that he's doing his best to try and lighten the mood. Or do you want me to put your cold stare pierces through him like a hot knife through butter, or any cliches. You're not in the market for a lightened mood. The few inches he lifted his seat off the floor, or reverse, and he lets out a fake cough or sitting down. Right, investigation. I'm not really sure what you need from me, but I'm an open book. First, I have a question for you, Miss Ayapara. May you say, I was under the impression that I was questioning you. He nods enthusiastically and doesn't wait for confirmation before he dives right in. You seem quite tired. Have you had enough soda? I've got a spare cushion lying around if you want to take a snooze cruise. Your business can wait, I'm sure. Self-care first. He trying to change the subject. I've had sufficient amount of sustenance. Thank you. I'd really like to have the reins into the conversation again, Mr. Coldan. He raises his hands a little bashfully, and though he's smiling, there's a slight sorrow to it, like he knows he was perhaps his last chance for a light-hearted conversation. Right, all yours, my hands are off. I'm nudging them in your direction. And then please, call me Rypite. May I call you Cecily? No. With the investigation properly underway, now you retrieve a folder that might help contextualize the situation slightly. For him, you mean, you've already read this document a significant number of times once. Recently in the Northern Waste, there was an armored truck that was intercepted en route to deliver some very particular goods back to corporate. In particular, a valuable package was stolen. You'll spare the details in case he turns out to be a blabbermouth. It doesn't sound like he has much of a filter, or even if you could be wrong. It was an unscheduled transport, so the culprit must have tied is corporate. When you happen to know anything of this operation, then before or after the fact, is there talk of any Arctic antics in your area of the corporate ladder? The look on Rypite's face is one none of slight concern, and while you're trying to figure out whether genuine worry or just a cover-up, he gives you his response. Can't say I've heard of this? But that certainly sounds kind of dangerous. Is everyone okay? Yes, you almost say in the most disappointed voice you could muster. The armored truck full of priceless assets was intercepted and nothing happened. You had to pay. They had to pay a fee for crossing the bridge. Straussy would be stuck being the drivers, singing an obnoxious repeating song along the whole trip home. 3 employees died. 2 armed guards and the driver. You start to lose faith in the idea that he'll be of any help to you. Because he's getting teary-eyed by these 3 complete and total strangers he didn't know existed until tonight. Golly, those poor souls. They were only doing their jobs. Not protecting their truck, that poor driver that they were trying so hard not to drive so far. It didn't even matter in the end. And your mind whispers to itself, but you let him breathe for a few more seconds. And that truck, having to endure the harsh cold, I hope its driver loved it and cherished it. And that package, it must feel so scared and lost in the hands of who knows who. Guy's got quite a surplus of empathy. He's feeling sorry for even inanimate objects. But that's a hard, that's also a hard commodity to come by. In this empire, so. Are you absolutely sure? Or there's nothing you know about this truck, Mr. Coldan? I find it difficult to believe that you have 0 ties with this incident. Gosh, I'd love to help. I really, really would. But I don't know what ties it could possibly have. I mean, I wear a tie, if that's any good. And I could maybe toss you one as well if you'd like. I'm positive you'd pull it off. You're not just unsure if he's a culprit, but you're downright rooting against it. Please let there be a better antagonist to chase. You have a way. You need to know for sure, and that method is the rest of this interrogation. There's something I'm looking to tie up, and it's all the loose ends of this case. Yeah, you think, what a badass comeback. Rypite looks positively stunned at your sense of professionalism. Tell me this, why do you think I'm here? They're questioning someone who seems to know nothing about this case. There must be an obvious connection you have for me to be spending time here. You don't want him to talk about ties again, because he looks like he's about to invite you to the company clothes shopping field trip as a bonding exercise. Instead, you get a brisk nod at your head to his whiteboard. Consider your work for Scorp. It's the only relevant chat client around. Information is your deal, is it not? Especially with a battleground devoid of competitors. Sure is. After all, you've got information, you've got victory. As a great man once said, that's been my motto forever. Looking very confident for a solid 30 seconds before it crumbles like a house of cards into the endless void of uncertainty. Or was it, you can't spell victory without information? You can't get information without giving victory? That was it, I'm sure of it. Funny you should mention giving victory. I've got some questions to ask you about how this information may have leaked. I have reason to believe that you and this entire company could be involved. Well, and if you want to help me out, you'll answer some questions. Though he looks alarmed, either you've made a crack in the case or he's just very paranoid. He doesn't seem to be panicking. Well, I'd be a bit of a dummy if I didn't try to clear my company's name, wouldn't I? Please ask me anything. And you're off. Let's question the microphone first. So that's the thing we know least about so far. You want to dial it back a bit to make sure he doesn't get too overwhelmed. This is only a baseless assumption regardless, but you leave no stone unturned. He likely speaks out about things and could easily have blabbed about something. He doubts here for show and show alone, considering it takes up a fair amount of limited desk space. Leaning over, you gently tap the base of his microphone and raise an eyebrow. Last I checked, Scorp doesn't come with a radio feature. What's this then? You don't have an intercom rigged up either. Before answering, Rypite apparently sees it necessary to grab one of his post-it notes and a pen from his jar of writing utensils. What are you doing? Writing down a note to self. You're Rypite. Consider a radio theme. Maybe you have the means to make some schemes. You really doubted it was necessary to include that last sentence, but okay. He finishes jotting down the idea that you've given him and sticks that on his computer monitor, along with other similarly neon-colored notes. Well, this excellent boy right here is my partner in crime when it comes to my podcast. That's news to you. Seems rather counterproductive to mix work and hobbies, doesn't it? I wonder, did he intentionally avoid calling it his partner in crime? To avoid seeming suspicious? Because, you know, you don't really want to imply, because when a legislator is asking you questions, you don't really want to imply anything crime related. Even if it's just a common turn of phrase. That's news to you. Seems rather counterproductive to mix work and hobbies, doesn't it? Now I know how you may be wondering why I have my sub here at work. Fear not, there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. If I want to rope a friend in from work as he Weiss's special guest, all I have to do is open the door. Actually, you don't particularly care for the way he's eyeing you like he knows exactly how to ensnare you in a friend trap. Nor the way he presses a button on his mic and clicks something on his computer. It says, check, check, beam me up, check, check. And it sinks in that he's recording. Yippee. The only reason you don't stop him is so that you can get a feel for his narrator style. How casual he is. See if he'd be the type to let secrets slip. Good evening, ladies, guys, gentle clouds, and every raindrop in between. a healthy number of degrees above freezing, and I'm your host, Rypite Coldan. To your surprise, there was a change in demeanor. Yes, he's still smiling far more than anyone else in the room is, but his voice softened somewhat. Unfortunately, it gives you pretty much no new information, so you're stuck listening to one episode of Rypite dialogue for now. You've got a real mind tickler that'll leave your imaginations in knots. To start off, what has 4 limbs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 on corporate paid vacation? I'll let you stew on that, but as always, should introduce us Weiss's co-pilot, Cecily, here to give us a good old auto bio. He beckons you closer with a hand and tilts the microphone towards you. All the memories of 7 sweet deep stage fright come flooding back. This isn't the same as your phone calls with your future employers, though. This is a jokester with a microphone. I would suggest you turn the microphone off before your radio show takes a turn for the uncooperative. I did not agree to this. We're also not on a first-name basis. Let's get that clear. Here while I'm saying the record straight, Mr. Coldan. Thankfully, this doesn't seem to be a live broadcast, since you'd imagine this take a little more setup. You'd hate to embarrass a man in front of an audience. And I mean, it depends on what kind of tech you're working with. After all, with the tech I use, once you've got your scene set up, all you need to click is to click a button, and then you're good to go. With a nod of understanding, he stops recording for his keystroke afterwards. Concern you. Don't tell me you're actually saving that. Just call it a work in progress. Revisit that one some other time. In the meantime, perhaps try saving things with words instead of throwing me into the deep end of the talk show pool. Rypite seems happy enough to plug himself, pulling a rolled up poster off his desk drawer that is a suspiciously similar composition to one of the science fiction flyers strung up on his wall. He explains it like he's pitching it to an executive, which you find somewhat entertaining. He's just missing the oversized paper that he pulls back to reveal the storyboard and marketing research. Whether or not it's a good day is a podcast I run in my off time. Throws me in a new co-pilot every episode, where we talk about what else in an empty conversation, the weather. We've got a segment for Nito Riddles. We talk about sci-fi, the occasional glad libs, but that's primarily weather talk. The answer to that riddle was a troll, by the by. It was a stretch, which at least you can add almost third on an audio show to your resume. Ironic, the blatant lead wielder hits the cutting room floor. That supplied nothing. The actual case. Fantastic. It's the most logical question, considering you're dealing with someone somehow knowing something like all crimes is committed by people who are awake. Scorp is all about information. You intend to find out how your info was passed to an outside party. Scorp just blew up out of nowhere, didn't it? Hadn't heard a thing about him or it was suddenly swallowing its predecessor like an unhinged jaw. Rushing headfirst into new things seems to be a theme around Scorp. Pouring time and energy into a broken concept? Classic. Textbook, as a matter of fact. And imagine you're quite proud of yourself being so high up on the corporate ladder. As I checked, it ranks #1 on my list of favorite things. Your eyebrows quirk at such a strange notion. You're perfectly capable of keeping up appearances, but #1? That's impressively highly ranked. If there were a collection of ranks, that would be the highest. There would be no end to the elevation of that one rank. You're quite fortunate. Not everyone can speak so highly of their jobs. Most people would deserve that spot, not for loved ones or particularly tasty foods. Well, it's tied with my soulmates too, and my friends. Oh, my Lucis too. Who can't forget him? Also, have you seen space? That's up there also. Not personally, no. Okay, there are a few ways he could have been involved, being the center of the information highway or likely being close to those people like Thestro. Now he could approach this you could approach this a few different ways. Really though, you've wasted enough time and you would really like to hurry this up. I'm going to have to ask you to show me your Scorp logs. As someone so closely involved with the inner workings of Scorp, I have to make sure everybody's clean. You understand, don't you? If you're clean, then you have nothing to worry about. The fact that he looks visibly worried, it almost makes you smile. You're absolutely positive he didn't do the actual deed himself, but it's certainly possible he's had a hand in this. Sure, alright, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. No secrets between friends. He wastes no time. Amy moving behind his desk as he logs back in. At least he isn't putting up a fight. Even if you could easily do this yourself by force. You can plainly see his password scribbled on a post-it note stuck on his computer monitor. It's "Let me in." His Scorp account has a different password, but considering it's 13 characters long, you're willing to bet it's a combination with "Let me in" and Scorp. Yep, that too is on the password note. Alright, here's the old radio station. Have at it. You don't bother to take a seat, you're not going to leave yourself defenseless. You keep a close eye on him in your peripheral vision. Like a paranoid vulture, he could jump at any time. He's apparently a big fan of Garage Feltry. Because her name and image are plastered all over his Scorp theme. There are also many hearts and lovey-dovey photos of the two together. Family refrained from telling him they were close to throwing up in your mouth just a little bit. You did say your soulmates are ranked #1 as well, didn't you? I can suddenly see there's some merit to this claim. Commissioned this little number from the coding department. Those guys are just on the ball, huh? The ball seems to be rolling through sludge because his system lags like it's diseased. You spent a few minutes snooping around his messages, checking back on your little lead. It doesn't look like he's too concerned. A lot of it is legitimate talk of deadlines and ideas, and as an encouragement. And also, him bouncing in jokes he clearly got from the internet, not off of his co-workers. Priority #1, search his contacts. Thanks, you don't understand why Scorp wouldn't let you see any names attached to the troll tags, but thanks, but you know that Sestro has a very memorable shade of purple. For a brief search, you found only a troll tag, but you and Sestro don't have any chat history at all. There's nothing but an unaccepted friend request here. I would, man, I wouldn't get, well, I wouldn't give to meet and befriend him. I'm sure he gives fantastic handshakes. Can you imagine? I can't not respect the guy with such clear visions. It's alright, I'm sure it just got lost in the mail or something. Wow, you're trying to move on and try not to snoop too much into the wrong terribly depressing thing. With a lot of power comes a lot of rationality. That's the saying, right? You keep scrolling through those contacts, but you can't find anybody giving him orders of any kind. At this rate, you guess he couldn't have gotten information from anybody important because he didn't know anyone important. Your search ends at the top of his list. When you're about to investigate sagacious mediator, he gets a little antsy. This is Siraj, I take it? The one and only, the best and only Siraj there is and ever should be. With a click of a mouse, you're in. And boy, do you enjoy the smell of suspicion in the evening. Today's conversation is particularly interesting. Rise and shine, sweetie, it's almost go time. Meet me in the break room to go over the details. Whatever you say, smoochy smoosh. Can't wait to know what you've been dying to tell me. The big promise, you won't regret this. As you don't know how to feel about the fact that Rypite wasn't the only one to say smoochy smoosh. But more importantly, the timestamps date this conversation less than 24 hours before the crime. Anything to say, Mr. Coldan? You expect to grill him insistently over the course of the next few hours, but he looks ready to burst already. Okay, you got me, I'll talk. My grublet, Ed and I, we've been having a little late back from our breaks recently. I've been giving her leaked information, pep talks. That's your big lead. He's a cheerleader. He's giving you a headache with a instead of an L, an E, an A, and a D. Yeah, our work's been stressing her out, so we meet up in a secret spot and I give her encouragement, but we only do it during work because that's when she needs it most. You slump back in your seat and try to keep your better thoughts to yourself. Oh, he's a real piece of work, despite doing nothing noteworthy at all. Am I in trouble? I'll look the other way. The notion of being let off the hook. Like he seems to perk right back up like nothing happened. And he's leaving that little episode behind, looks like. You're wasting your time, you think to yourself. You've gained nothing from this conversation. He's looking at you, silent, and only asking what the problem seems to be. It's not his business, quite frankly. He's giving you a gentle look. Looks like he's trying to sedate a frightened animal. Are you sure you're doing okay? You don't seem even tip-top shape to me. I'm fine. You only wasted precious time on a false hope after all. Well, Rypite, it doesn't look convinced. I didn't let you down, did I? I didn't think you'd notice. Ouch. You see, you recoil a little, but he manages to fight through it. You appreciate the resilience. You won't want him to draw attention to the bawling boss in the office. In his office. Sorry, it's just been a rocky start to a very high-stakes investigation. How old are you, if I may? 12 sweeps, so I'll assume you're the same? I'm practically twice your age. I wouldn't say I'm qualified to give you advice for management, but I certainly have some life lessons under my belt. Here's one on the house. The first pawn you move can spell your downfall, all from the very start. It doesn't matter how you play the rest of the game if you begin poorly. The opening gambit sets the scene, you can't rewind that. All you can do is bend the damage before your throat is slit and you bleed to death a regretful husk. Not everyone can move ahead so blindly without thinking like some companies around here. A moment of silence hangs uncomfortably in the air as he tries to figure out what to say. You can see the words buried under his tongue, different ones attempting to escape with no luck. You start to pack your papers and stand up, thoroughly spent from a few hours learning how much of a goofball a boss can really be. I'll be seeing you. Actually, I'm gonna need you to wait just a second, miss. Excuse you? He proceeds to slide over here and then fade back into view. As you turn around to follow him, you see him marching over to the door, sliding his wheelie desk chair in front of the door or under the handle. He doesn't even prop the chair up to the doorknob to stop anyone else from coming in, or lock the wheels or anything. You do realize that he can easily move that out of the way and have people to talk to, or even just sneak past the gap he left behind. So, and some very light furniture because it's not entirely a snug fit, not traditional en passant, but practical all the same. At first, he doesn't respond, instead wiping all of his creative mind map from his whiteboard. You have a puzzle to solve. Oh, and I've got 2 thumbs and also a puzzle to solve. I want to help Cecily. I know we can work together and come up with an answer for these mysteries. I'm a creative director and a creative director. You wanted me to think, and I really you want to do something. I don't know how I'd feel if I let you walk out of here without having done anything. That looked like somewhat important. You'd written in the deadline. The deadline is in 2 days. Please tell me you backed all that up somewhere. Nope, that was the only copy that existed, and now it's gone forever. Helping you is more important. Well, now I've negatively impacted your work schedule. I really should be. I really should be going. Nonsense. We have a quirk to catch. And so he gets scribbling and scrawling and jotting down words and linking them with wavy lines. Well, if only he had string, then he wouldn't have to deal with the wavy lines. They can so easily get disrupted by an errant finger. But hey, he's clearly working with what he's got, since he has no corkboard in sight. Let's just mark the key words. He's underlining every word he writes. You don't figure he's letting you go. Oh, until he thinks he's helped you. Oh well, you might as well save the measly 2 synapses it would take to note this down. He at least remembers everything you told him. He's a good listener. All the keynotes are present. Unfortunately, he seems to procrastinate. Not 5 seconds after you mentally compliment him. What's all these swirly clouds up top? Not to recreate the scene of the snowy crime, I hope. There's a suspicious amount of delight he shows when you ask. Well, you can't have a synapse squall without clouds. What kind of storm would it be without clouds? It's that, as we say on whether or not that it's a good day, sometimes you need clouds. There isn't much you can count on, but you can always count clouds being there, you know? Imagine it raining without knowing when or why. You'd get drenched and given at least 15 different viruses with no warning whatsoever. Your eyes focus on the board for a moment. You hear Rypite excitedly trying to inspire you, but none of it sticks. You hear everything he says, but it brushes past you like wind in the grass. It's a nice sentiment for sure, but it doesn't give you answers. It's nothing but fluff, surface level boon. Eventually he knows that you're not looking at him and joins you in reviewing the facts. Seems clear that the silence is clearly making him uncomfortable. Oh, but that might also be his sudden urge to make it up to you, clawing at his psyche. Never mind that he's eating into both his time and yours of his own volition. I appreciate your assistance, and for the record, you don't have to be doing this. And now I'm just cutting into your work time. You're allowed to let me handle this. I'm qualified that's off to a rocky start. No investigation is simple from start to finish, not with crimes this drastic. And yet, here you are. You try hard, I'll give you that. Just don't leave your employees hanging for too long. Don't worry about my job. It'll be fine. There's a time and place for all of us, don't you know? You're getting a strong and long wave of deja vu. Maybe that is something that he says a lot. Recall, Rypite, an inspirational slogan. This happened like a half hour ago. You don't need to bring this up again. What's next? Recalling every time someone says hello to you? Oh, that one, that was just a genuine, and bogus recall option. If I goes to scribble more possibilities down, you can't see it. He passes body, so you're left waiting in suspense until he pulls away to present his new theories. No, they weren't frozen to death. It was intentional assassination, and the cuts on their bodies prove as much. Plus, they were driving inside a vehicle where it snows considerably less. Phooey. The board squeaks as he says that notion is erased and replaced with another, or not 10 seconds later. They didn't turn on each other. Who would have run off with the vial if all three were killed? I mean, I did mention earlier that, we haven't seen body number 3. So who's to say all it would take is for the person that said that body number 3 had already been taken away to be in on it and providing them with an alibi of being dead. With another with another tisk. He's putting one more idea on the line. This is just a plot of a mystery novel released 4 sweeps ago. Yeah, he's talking about the character arc of one... countless Brendan Fraser roles in the film adaptations. Is he serious? He looks serious. The plot of that bloke looks even worse scrawled on a whiteboard, but you decide to bite the bullet and pat him on the head. You know what? I'll let you know if we get a ransom note from a man with many skills from inside corporate. I sincerely promise. Aha! I knew it. It's always someone from inside the company. No one else would know what was inside the truck. You're the one that said that, but whatever. You bite your tongue as you drag the impromptu blockade he'd set up out of the way. You're eager to find some new leads, and even if it seems anticlimactic, you need some space. Oh, are we done? Of course, I have an infiltrator with many skills to catch after all. Thanks for your help. Try to in earnest not to sound sarcastic, because then you'll probably be subjected to more randomly generated murder mystery plot twists and hurt feelings. It seems to work because as Rypite catches and shakes her hand goodbye before you can escape, and tosses you his business card while he's at it. It's good to branch out if you need help. Every branch comes from the same tree after all. Don't forget, I've got your back. You have no idea what the joke was. Look, he's clearly hinting at it is. He's winking and grinning and patting himself on the back for some reason. You think him politely yet sternly only confirm that you're leaving. You breathe out a sigh of relief when you step out of his office. You could do with a trip to the monster boiler yourself. Seeing workers buy all that energy drink. But time for you to clock out. You've learned virtually nothing, but you suppose as you have some phone numbers for your bank. And he apparently wrote down his soulmate's numbers on the end of the card. R2 in blue pen. His monorail is as good at puzzles like this. You start wondering whether or not it's worth it to reach out to another detective for the reason his voices he had inflicted strangely earlier dawns on you. I've got your back. You flip the card over to its front again, and above it, carelessly in your pocket, and shove it carelessly in your pocket, you're moving on to a new suspect. Right. That's where I will leave it off for today. Hey, thank you to everyone who came by, made watch. Now, you'll find somebody to send you off to, and we will pick this up likely in a few cycles. As boring as my work may be, there does tend to be enough of it to keep me solidly hugged off for large amounts of time. And in between I have it, so it'll be a while before I have a good 3 hours to kill. all my first few choices, uses for resources of someone to send you all off to, turned up nothing, so just send you off here. Seems I made a typo. Alright. So once again, we'll return with this later on. For now, I am kind of, my time is solidly booked for the next bit with, more mind-numbing busy work, basically. Yeah, until then, so long. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.